What? Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and today's video I am continuing my Q&A. I had posted part 1 about a week and a half ago, and a week before that I made a community post asking you guys for some questions related to my weight loss journey, my cookie business, and just anything else. Today I'm going to be answering the second half of those questions, just going into detail about my different experiences, and I hope you guys enjoy this and find it helpful, and I appreciate the questions. So if you enjoyed this video or find it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and let's jump right in with question number 1, and I will have part 1 linked in the description if you guys missed that one. But starting off with the first one today, we've got, what made you choose Weight Watchers as your way to lose weight? How long have you been on Weight Watchers? You make it look so easy. How long did it take for you to really get it down? So this is a really good question. I lost 70 pounds back in 2020 using the Weight Watchers program. It was the first time I had ever tried the program, and it worked really well for me. It finally just clicked. I've struggled with my weight my entire life and tried a bunch of different things, definitely calorie counting the most, but then just different like juice cleanses and very restrictive diets I would try from time to time in hopes of losing weight quickly. And this time around, I just got to the point where I was really scared for my health, but I knew that I needed a way to lose weight and actually just like do it the right way and keep it off. And somehow Weight Watchers was just what clicked best for me. I think that the point system just made it much more simplified and allowed me to make kind of a game out of it and just, again, stay consistent with something for once. And it was something so random. I was just scrolling my phone at night. I had many nights during this time period at my heaviest that I would just kind of have these breakdowns at night thinking about everything. I would want to make all these changes and have a plan in my head, and then the next morning I would just continue down the other path. But this time around, I was scrolling my phone at night, I was looking at people's transformation pictures, and I saw a girl who had tried Weight Watchers and had success, and it got me just on their website kind of looking it up, and I realized that they had a digital only version, so you could just track using your phone. You weren't required to go into meetings, and that just sounded good to me because I was nervous about anything other than that. I wanted to be in control and just be doing it on my own, but at the same time I needed some structure. So I actually just ended up signing up the next morning, and I also got my husband to join with me because he struggled with his weight. He was willing to try something new. We started it out and just haven't looked back since. So that was in 2020. It's 2026 now, and I've maintained that weight loss while continuing to prioritize building muscle, and Weight Watchers has still been the best way for me to stay on track when it comes to tracking my meals. So throughout maintenance and during different times where maybe I'd want to lose a little bit of weight or something like that, I've always used Weight Watchers over the past 6 years to just get back on track because that's just what works for me. And I know a lot of people, it doesn't work for them. They prefer calorie counting or maybe some other type of diet. But for me, Weight Watchers is just the most sustainable and realistic. Again, the point system works for me when it comes to tracking meals, and I don't have to track 0-point foods. It first of all gets me to prioritize eating those because I don't have to track them. But then also I only have to track a few ingredients per meal, which makes it less overwhelming and allows me to stay more consistent with it. It's just what works best for me. It's important to find what works for you, but that's where I am at with Weight Watchers and how I found it and how I've stuck with it. It did take a little bit of time to get down, but at the same time, it clicked faster than I ever expected because when I would do calorie counting, I just felt so overwhelmed and I just never did it the right way. And with Weight Watchers, it wasn't as overwhelming. I was able to go to the grocery store, scan a bunch of items, try to find out points, try to make meals that were the lowest point. And again, I just made it a game in my head. So it took a little bit of time to start to learn the point values for items and find the items that were lower point, but it actually clicked faster than I expected. Next question we've got, where do you begin? I'm so overwhelmed with diets, exercise, and supplements. Thank you, you are so inspiring. Thank you, I appreciate that. For me, it was first just beginning with a reason to do it. I think that was the most important thing because my reason was my health and future, and that allowed me to be more realistic about making this sustainable and not just like a quick fix. So I think in the past I had always just tried to lose 50 pounds in 2 months or lose a bunch of weight really quickly, and it was never in a sustainable way. So I think having the right reason to do it and the right mindset going into it was a huge start. But then kind of just starting small so that I didn't overwhelm myself. At that point, I was used to getting takeout 2 times a day, And so I had to slowly start finding ways to satisfy those cravings for the food I enjoyed, but using healthier ingredients. So I slowly started to find new substitutes, whether it was a lower calorie sour cream or cheese options or ranch dressing, because I would consume a lot of ranch without a second thought about the calories. So finding a lightened up option that still satisfied my craving made it easier to just kind of make that little swap and then keep going with it. Same thing with drinking my calories. I had to really be real with myself and just track a day of eating the way that I was eating at my heaviest, and realized how much extra sugar I was consuming and fat and calories. And that really opened my eyes and allowed me to slowly make some adjustments that started to make me feel much better. And as I started feeling better, it made it easier to make better decisions, and it was kind of like a domino effect. So starting small, finding things that were realistic, and I knew that in the past I would try to use exercise to be able to eat more and thought that I could outrun a bad diet. So when I started, I didn't want to really focus on exercise at all. My main priority was my nutrition, and I think that kind of helped me. I think that it would have helped if I maybe started walking and just doing some things to be active, but at the same time, just making my priority my nutrition. It wasn't too overwhelming. I was able to really learn how to fuel my body, and then when I felt ready, I started to incorporate exercise. And then when it comes to supplements, I would say don't stress yourself too much about those. There are definitely supplements I've used throughout my weight loss and maintenance, especially even in the peak of my weight loss. I would drink greens every day, but it was such a habitual thing that just helped me start the day on a good note and feel better. And that was more so why I did it. I don't drink greens anymore. I feel that I get enough from the vegetables and the whole foods that I eat, so it's not a priority of mine. Same thing with protein powder. It's a supplement that I incorporate here and there when I need some extra protein. Collagen is another one that I had pretty consistently because I was worried for loose skin throughout the peak of my weight loss, and so I would just mix it in my coffee, and for years I incorporated that. Now I'm not as consistent with it as I used to be. Sometimes I'll toss it in my coffee here and there, but I don't even have a brand that I really enjoy as much anymore, so I'm trying to figure that out. It's just not my main priority, and especially when you're just starting out, supplements don't have to be the main priority, so don't overwhelm yourself with that, but along the way, find what works best for you. How do you not get tired of counting everything all the time for so long? My biggest issue is fatigue. That's a good question, and honestly, I do get tired of it from time to time. Like I mentioned, it is a little bit easier with Weight Watchers because I don't track my 0-point foods. Although as I've gotten more focused on building muscle and exercising, I do really prioritize protein as well as fiber. So in order to get accurate tracking of those things, I do have to track my 0-point foods, and I'm not consistent with tracking every single item like that every day, but from time to time I do that to make sure that I'm on track with those things. That's where my what did I eat in a week videos are really helpful to make sure that I'm getting enough protein and fiber and stuff like that. But when it comes to tracking, it is just easier for me because I only do a few items per meal, and that gets me again to prioritize 0-point foods. And again, just make it not as overwhelming to have to track everything. I do sometimes pre-track meals, or a lot of the time just while I'm cooking, I'll quickly try to plug the ingredients in so that I don't have to worry about it while I'm eating or after I eat, and that helps a little bit, but I do get tired of it from time to time, and it does take hard work and consistency. Even though it doesn't sound like it's hard to just enter a few buttons on your phone, it is something you have to remember, and it is tedious. So I do struggle with it from time to time and staying consistent with it, but it's not the end of the world if I don't track every single day. I try to give myself some grace, and especially if I'm going to be on vacation or something, I take the time off doing that. What do you recommend to stop overeating, especially at night? When I don't eat as much during the day, I tend to eat bigger meals at night, then want dessert and a snack. What can I do to prevent this? Another good question, and something that I also struggle with, especially at night. I feel like I could really go all day without eating and just get my stuff done, and then at the end of the day just like eat everything, and that's how I used to even be at my heaviest. I would really overeat at night because I'd be coming home from a stressful day at work, and even though I'd be working on cookie orders all night, I would get so much relief from just snacking and eating big meals. And so I would be up really late too, and I would eat multiple meals throughout that time, even though I did eat while I was at work, and it really caught up with me during that time. What has helped me since I started my weight loss, because I still have that mentality, I still have those habits where I like to snack at night, especially. I get so snacky, but having lower point, healthier options that are actually filling really does make a difference. I think a big thing is not standing at the pantry and eating. I can picture myself at my old house when I was again at my heaviest, and I would just stand at the pantry and go from bag to bag to bag to candy to just like everything. I would have a little bit of everything and sometimes a lot of everything, and I wouldn't have a second thought about it. And that's how I kind of came up with the idea to make my snack mixes that I like to do, because air pop popcorn is 0 points. It's got some fiber and you can have a decent serving that's pretty filling and low calorie. I started air popping popcorn and then just picking those different snacks that I would stand and eat half a bag at a time. And I just use like a 1 or 2 point serving of each of them, mix it with the popcorn, and then I get to satisfy those cravings, and it's still pretty filling, but I'm getting away from the pantry. I'm not standing there with the bags, and I've got more portion control. And a lot of times I find that I am satisfied after I finish eating it. And that's if I want something salty. If I want something sweet, I try to have a filling sweet option that I make. So whether it's like apple nachos or a nice filling yogurt bowl, I like to have those at night because I find that they really fill me up. I also have my Honeycrisp or Cosmic Crisp apple every single day after I finish my dinner, and that also makes me more full at that time, which allows me to not be as snacky during the night. So I think just developing healthier habits, incorporating fruits and fiber and protein, those types of things, so that you're more satisfied and satiated, but still actually fueling your body and satisfy those snacky cravings. I think that's the biggest thing that has helped me to avoid over snacking. Also, like I said, kind of getting away from the pantry and just taking the food away and sitting down or going into another room really helps me. And if I'm not even that hungry, but I'm feeling snacky, because I do get that from time to time too, I try to just keep myself busy. I try to go on a walk or go sit in the backyard and just enjoy the weather. If that's not an option, I'll take a bath or I'll crochet or something to keep my mind busy and off of food, because it is something that I struggle with, and I've always struggled with food noise, and those are just some of the ways that help me to avoid overeating. How do you deal with fluctuations on the scales? Also, how do you stay motivated personally? I find it hard not to get discouraged when the scales don't seem to reflect my effort. Sometimes it seems easier to give up. Definitely, I have dealt with this, and especially fluctuations on the scale. It was really hard for me when I was losing weight throughout the peak of my weight loss, and the scale kept going down, and then it kind of slowed down, and then I started incorporating weightlifting, and it kind of started to go up, and it really freaked me out and made me think, what am I doing wrong? Like, what is happening? But that's when I really started to prioritize taking progress pictures, trying on old clothes, and measuring my progress in different ways. And yes, the scale is a great tool. It's a great measurement for weight loss. It's something I still use, just not as frequently. I used to do weekly weigh-ins, and now it's maybe 1 to 2 times a month that I'm weighing in. But I've continued to still measure my progress in other ways, and that's where I always share the pictures where I'm either the same weight but look more toned, or even a heavier weight and look a little bit more toned than my previous weight from like a year or 2 before. And it really has opened my eyes to the fact that the scale doesn't always tell the whole picture. And again, it can be accurate. It is a great tool, but there are a lot of different things that go into play when it comes to your health and your weight, and sometimes it fluctuates. So even during my time of the month, I do not step on the scale because I always know it is going to be higher, and it always gets in my head even though I know it. So at this point, I just kind of avoid it during that time, and then focus on the habits that make me feel good and fueling my body and drinking water and all of those things during that time to still stay on track and continue with my goals, but not focus too much on that number. And it's definitely discouraging when you're working hard and you feel like you're doing everything right and the scale just won't go down. I had that so many times throughout my weight loss, or even just like 0.1 loss or a 0.1 gain, and I just had to keep going through those times. And then a lot of the times it would catch up to me. I would stick with these habits, and then I would see a loss a couple weeks down the road or a week down the road, and that kept me going. But also just finding other ways to stay motivated and measure your progress is huge, because again, the scale does not always tell the whole story. I do know some people too have success with weighing themselves daily to see how much it fluctuates. I've never actually tried that, but if that's something that would maybe work for you, I feel like it would still get in my head a little bit too much and just put too much focus on that number. But to be able to see how much your weight actually fluctuates, it may help. Next question is, how do you manage your intake with working as a professional baker? Just cooking for my family and tasting things throws me off, let alone sweet treats. Your videos have been very helpful. Thank you. I love hearing that, so thank you. For managing treats working as a baker, it was definitely harder when I worked in an actual bakery. So I was working in a bakery throughout the start of my weight loss. I had worked there for years before, and that's also what contributed to my weight gain. And then as I started Weight Watchers, I was still there for about another year or so. And it was very tempting compared to what I do with my cookie business. I do decorated sugar cookies, so I'm not as tempted by them anymore. I've been around them for over 10 years every single week, and I just don't crave them the way that I even used to. It's not as tempting as when I was working in the bakery and we had donuts and cheesecake and just all of these different things that I didn't have at home. Those were much more tempting to me, and I didn't have a second thought about them until I started Weight Watchers and I started tracking my food. What I would do is actually track every little bite I had at the bakery when I was working, and I did not realize how much extra stuff I was just consuming. Even when I wasn't even hungry, I would still just like have a bite of something sweet that was in the back because it was just sitting there and I could. So it was definitely hard to be around those sweets all the time and being tempted by them. Even if I didn't want them, I would still consume them a lot of the time, especially at my heaviest. But when I started tracking, I really wanted to be honest and accurate with myself, and that was such an eye-opener. And because of that, it helped me to be more mindful about when I wanted to indulge in sweet treats, what was actually worth it, and it got me to just, again, be more mindful. And that helped me a lot to manage my intake and make sure that I wasn't overdoing it and over-consuming extra sugar and calories that I didn't need or want. So I think just being honest with tracking every single bite really helped me a lot. And even now, I still do a lot of sweet treats other than the cookies. I'll do cake pops and Rice Krispies and pretzels and stuff like that. Usually, I just make sure to make myself one. I track it, I move on, I've enjoyed it in moderation, and that way I don't feel restricted, but I also don't overdo it. I used to make a lot of extras because I'd want us to be able to eat them, and now I just make like 1 to 2 so that Adam and I can each just get an extra cake pop, and then that's it, they're gone. Not having that extra temptation definitely makes a difference, and being able to control it is something that I started to do, but also just being honest about tracking it makes you a little bit more mindful about what's actually worth indulging in. So I'd say that's the biggest thing that's helped me with that. Okay, next question. I'm afraid of failing the diet and having to make too many sacrifices. How can I find the courage to start another time, and how can I motivate myself? Thank you. So I definitely understand what you're feeling about feeling like you're going to fail. I struggled with that for years because I had such an all or nothing mentality, and breaking through that was a huge reason why I was able to finally have success this time around. I realized that consistency is so much more important than perfection, and you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna have off days, and that's totally fine. That's life. And that is part of actually having sustainable results, realizing that there's a balance between those things. So first of all, I think just not making too many sacrifices, not restricting too much is huge. I was kind of slower with the changes I started to make, the different things I started to incorporate, and as it started making me feel better, it got easier to stick to. So I feel like that was a huge part of having success. I, in the past, would cut a bunch of things out and feel so restricted, and then that would just make me crave it so much more and go way, way, way in the opposite direction when I would slip up and be like, okay, I failed, I'm just gonna go the other way. Instead of having that mentality, I started to think that I'm not going to lose my progress overnight. I can enjoy these things in moderation. And I think that having weeklies with Weight Watchers really helped that, because it made me realize that I could indulge in treats or use some extra points to go out to eat or something like that. I realized that I didn't have to cut all those things out like I thought I did in the past. And that made it more sustainable and easier for me to stick to and just enjoyable in general. So I think it actually is important to not make too many sacrifices and to make it more of a lifestyle change of things that you actually enjoy. Instead of finding exercise that you dread, find something you look forward to. Instead of eating foods that you dread, find foods that you look forward to eating. Those things really did make a difference for me, and it's easier said than done. It took time and trial and error and finding out what I really liked. But in the end, it's been worth it because I've been able to sustain these results for years now without feeling restricted. And I think that is so important. So starting small, not cutting out a bunch of things, is actually possible to still have success. And I think just getting rid of that all or nothing mentality will really help you out. So don't overwhelm yourself. Start with a few small changes and work your way up from there. Give yourself some grace along the way. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and it'll just be that much easier to stick to. I find it difficult to find a balance between staying in a calorie deficit and making that calorie deficit sustainable enough to lose weight consistently over a longer time frame. How did you handle that? Was it hard for you too? How painful should we expect a calorie deficit to be? So you definitely will notice when you're in a calorie deficit. In the past, I was always hungry all the time, and this time around, I've really prioritized protein and fiber in my meals, which makes me a lot less hungry. I feel so full after a lot of the meals that I eat, especially when I make like a filling bowl or something. So I think really prioritizing that and making meals as filling as possible while still staying within your calories does make a huge difference, and it's allowed me to not feel like it's like painful to be in a calorie deficit. And I think that's what was so surprising about Weight Watchers when I first started out. I think first of all, the calorie deficit I used to try to do was unrealistic. So using the points, I got 38 points at my heaviest because it was actually a realistic calorie deficit for me. And then as I lost weight, it slowly went down, but because it was gradual, it made it much more realistic for me to actually stick to without feeling hungry or restricted. So I think being reasonable about the calorie deficit that you're in is really important. And then again, prioritizing those really filling foods so that you don't feel hungry, but you're still staying within your calories. And it was hard. It was definitely a change for me to adjust to, but it was a little bit easier than I expected because of the fact that I was able to incorporate 0-point foods to make myself feel full and satiated. And I expected to be hungry like I was in the past, but this time I wasn't because I was eating these whole foods. So that's been a huge part of me actually being able to stay consistent with a calorie deficit. And there does come a time where you have to just go back to staying in maintenance. I definitely make that switch every now and then. And I kind of felt it in my journey after about a year of being on weight loss. I hit maintenance, the scale was no longer going down, and I found new things that I kind of wanted to prioritize, like building muscle. I also made sure to just go to maintenance calories at that point, but I was still able to build muscle and changed my body composition while not feeling too like restricted or in too much of a calorie deficit. So I think kind of switching back and forth between like a deficit and maintenance is also important, not staying in a deficit for too long. I was able to for a full year and stay consistent with it, but when I got some new goals and new focuses, that definitely changed. And you just have to find what works best for you at the certain point of your journey. Next question is, since starting Weight Watchers, what has been your biggest challenge and what has been your greatest triumph? Since starting Weight Watchers, I would say my biggest challenge has definitely been staying motivated through the winter, honestly. It is such a hard time for me to want to get out of bed every day because of the cold weather and the gloominess here, and I just really struggle. And then I feel like I thrive in summer. I've been feeling so much better now that I've been able to get out and enjoy the nice weather. And it's just a tough time for me mentally, physically, emotionally, all those things. I just definitely prefer the warmer months. I would say staying motivated during those times has been the biggest challenge since being on Weight Watchers and just doing maintenance and just maintaining my weight loss throughout the years. I definitely struggle the most during those times and feel much better during the summer and spring months. So finding ways to keep things interesting, to stay on track, whether it's like ingredient prepping or making sure that I'm staying consistent with my workouts, because even though I enjoy my workouts, there are still so many times, especially in the winter, where I struggle to want to get to the gym. And so I have to find different ways to just keep myself going, keep myself motivated, remember that I'm doing this for my health and future, and just have those reminders throughout the way. I would say that's definitely been the hardest since starting just my weight loss in general. Then my biggest triumph, I would say, is just actually having success and staying consistent with my weight loss for once in my life. I mentioned that it's something I have always struggled with since I was in middle school. I was always heavier and struggling with my eating habits, and I just always thought that if I could lose weight, my life would be better. I feel like I would have everything together. And of course, that wasn't the truth. Losing weight didn't solve all my problems, but being able to finally just do it and have success and feel better about everything and my future was a huge life changer for me. And it's something that I'm really proud of because I was never able to actually stay consistent with it in the past. And the biggest reason I was this time around was really switching my mindset, getting rid of that all or nothing mentality, focusing on staying consistent and making it fun and healthy and feeling good and all of those things instead of focusing on looking thinner, worrying about what other people thought. Those things were keeping me very stuck in my ways, and getting over them was huge. And I feel like that has just been such a big triumph for me. And being being able to switch my mentality to do this for the right reasons and actually be able to stick with it. I really like your hair and was wondering what shampoo you use and do you have a hair care routine? Thank you, I appreciate it. So I have long straight hair like this, I always have, and I feel like a lot of products really weigh it down. So I usually try to find things that are like lightening, softening sprays. So first things first, the shampoo and conditioner that I use is just this brand. I've tried a bunch of them, and again, with different conditioners, I feel like they just make my hair like weighed down. This one has been so good. And usually what I do is I'll do like a quick shampoo, put the conditioner in for a couple minutes, and then I shampoo it out. And that has been such a game changer for me lately. So that's just how I wash my hair, and I find that it works so well. But then the different products that I use that I love, this one I just randomly tried because I had gotten the actual like beach waver tool. I don't even really use it anymore, but this shine spray works really, really nicely. It is kind of pricey, so I try to make it last. I usually only use it if I'm like going out or doing something, but I really like how this makes my hair feel. And then recently I had found this one because I was looking for something that was like a detangler but also had a heat protectant in it. So this is also the spray that I use after the shower because I do blow dry my hair. And so I just spray a little bit, blow dry my hair, and then I find that it makes it so nice and soft and shiny. That's pretty much what I do for my hair care. And I usually wash my hair every few days. I don't wash it every time that I shower, but especially in the summer when I'm sweating more and skating, I do have to wash it a little bit more frequently. So I make sure to put in some like oil or something to kind of moisturize it when I'm washing it more. Next question is, I rarely get enough fiber. What can I add to my diet to get more fiber but not go over my points? So that's where 0 point foods are a really good thing, because a lot of the 0 point foods are 0 points because they've got a lot of fiber in them. So some of the high fiber foods that I eat a lot of, I already mentioned air pop popcorn is really good for snacks, and that adds in some fiber to my day. I have my apple every single day after dinner, which is like 4, 5, 6 grams of fiber depending on the size of the apple. I love edamame. Even the type that has points, when it's like the dried snack, it's usually like 1, 2, or 3 points for the serving I have, but like 8 or 9 grams of fiber. So that really helps me out. Another option is my high fiber tortillas. Those have like 15 grams of fiber in them and really help me get to my goal in a day. Usually if I have like 2 wraps as a meal, I'm already at my fiber goal for the day. So that's another one that really helps me out. A lot of 0 point foods, whether it's beans or some different vegetables, here and there, those add fiber. Blueberries, just berries in general when I have my yogurt bowls. Those are some of the things that really help me to make sure that I'm hitting my goal every single day. I also know that there are some good fiber supplements that you can take, but for me, I haven't gotten to that point. If anything, I like to, again, have like my fiber tortillas or buy products that are just a little bit higher in fiber specifically. But a lot of the time through like whole foods, fruits and vegetables, that is how I try to hit my goal. I've been on Weight Watchers for about 2 months. I've lost 10 pounds. I've got 25 to go. At the beginning, I didn't want to even touch weeklies. Now I'm finding myself running out of weeklies by the end of the week and going over my point allotment. I'm still eating in a calorie deficit. It's just been getting harder to stick to 23 points a day and hitting my protein and fiber. How do you stay motivated on Weight Watchers long term? That's a really good question, and something that I also dealt with. Like I mentioned earlier, as you start losing weight on Weight Watchers, you get fewer dailies every day. So I went from 38 to 24 as I lost weight, and it definitely took some getting used to. And that's when I really did start to prioritize more 0 point foods. So I feel like even in the start of my journey, I was eating 0 point foods, but not prioritizing them as much as when I only have 24 points in a day. Then majority of my meals are just packed with as many 0 point foods as I can. And that way it's adding to my calories, but not going over with my points. And a lot of the times those foods are higher in protein and fiber. They make it more filling and allow me to not go over the points for the day. Although, like you said, I like to use my weeklies as well. That's why I couldn't sustain all-in mode for too long, because I just needed my weeklies back to enjoy meals out from time to time, or even, like you said, throughout the day. Sometimes I just want that extra protein bar, especially when I'm being more active. There are many weeks where I just go over my points in weeklies because of it. But like you said, I'm still staying within my calories for the day. I think just kind of adjusting and seeing what your goals are and where you're at with your current lifestyle, you can kind of work with the program and maybe adjust and just focus more on some of those 0 point foods, and also being okay with the fact that if you go over your points, it's not the end of the world for the week. You just reset and focus the next week, and those weeklies are there for a reason, so you can definitely use them. But I think it just depends on how active you are and where you're at with your goals. But staying motivated long term really does take work. Like I mentioned, it's way harder for me in the winter to stay motivated. I just have to find new ways to keep going. Whether it's setting new goals for myself, ingredient prepping, and doing different things to set myself up for success. Even when it's hard, I know how much it helps and I have to kind of talk myself through it. I've mentioned on my channel that I thank myself for doing things after I do them, and it sounds ridiculous, but it actually helps to just kind of like put it out there, and it reminds me then the next time that I was happy. I thanked myself after I did it, so I just need to do it again. Those little conversations I have with myself really do help me to stay on track and keep going when I do not want to ingredient prep. Sometimes that's just the last thing I want to do, but I still get it done, and then I'm so happy throughout the week. It helps me to stay on track and motivated, and it's always worth it. After losing the weight, what continues to motivate you? I used to meal prep and loved it. Unfortunately, this is perfect timing after the last question. Unfortunately, as I've gotten older, I realized I don't do a good job actually eating balanced meals. I almost always skip breakfast, even though I wake up early, and lunch, sometimes even dinner, and I just snack on a few things. I want to change my habits and eat more fruits and veggies. So how do you incorporate them best into your day? I appreciate you and your content so much. You have done such a wonderful job. Thank you. Okay, you mentioned meal prep, which is something that hasn't really worked for me, specifically making full meals and then having them ready to consume. But that's why ingredient prep works so well. And it actually sounds like it could be beneficial to you if you're trying to incorporate fruits and vegetables. Maybe prepping a veggie mix that you can start incorporating into your meals each day could really help you. And I don't know if the reason you don't want to eat breakfast, lunch, if it's just because you're feeling like you don't have time or you're just not hungry. For me, it's more not having time to throw together meals is what causes me to not eat them and just have like snacky things. So having the different components of meals ready, whether it's prepped rice, prepped veggies, prepped chicken, and then being able to just throw together a quick meal with a few other ingredients, I think that's helped me the most and maybe could be beneficial to you if you want to start incorporating more meals throughout the day. But that's always my biggest excuse when I get off track or I start just like snacking throughout the day. It's usually because I don't have stuff ready. I didn't set myself up for success. I don't have options. And that just involves me making sure I'm grocery shopping and stocking up on the ingredients that help me, prepping some ingredients so I can create meals out of them. And then that way I'm actually getting more fruits and vegetables. I really do try to prioritize vegetables with my meals, even breakfast. Having veggie mix prepped is such a game changer because I can make an egg scramble and just throw some in really quickly. And then I'm getting my serving of vegetables with breakfast. And then I could even use that same veggie mix for lunch when I make a rice bowl, or if I'm making a pasta for dinner and throwing that in. I just try to keep things really, really simple. I really emphasize that on my channel because that's how I've had success, is not overdoing it, not having these stressful recipes that I have to stick to or big overwhelming meal prep. It's just little things here and there that add up and make it a little bit easier for me to incorporate them. Can you explain more on balance and moderation? If I tell myself I can have something in moderation, it's a fine line. My family eats out multiple times a week, and if I ate with them, then I just binge and lose all the progress I've made. I have a bad all or nothing personality, and finding balance is very hard at this point. It's been so hard healing my relationship with food. So I can definitely relate. I've really struggled with that in the past, and feeling restricted really, really leads me to those feelings of wanting to overeat and not enjoy things in moderation. And that's where you have to, again, find that fine line of balance and not overdoing it. The way that I do this is by kind of staying on track with my weeklies when it comes to indulging in a dessert or something. I still track those things. And then maybe that day I had to prioritize more 0-point foods with my breakfast or lunch so that I didn't go over my points. But also just realizing that you can enjoy things in moderation made that fear of me not getting enough go away. In the past, I always thought that I had to indulge at that time because there was a chance that I wasn't going to be able to indulge. It's kind of a hard thing to explain, but moderation just didn't work for me because I wanted it all every time and I could never find a balance with things. So even if your family eats out multiple times a week, for me, I would probably still have the food out with them a couple times, but I would either have lower point options those times or enjoy what I want from the place, and then that day really make sure that I prioritized a really filling, high protein, high fiber breakfast and lunch. But especially at the start of my weight loss, I did struggle with that mentality because I would want to get my favorite burger out and I felt like I was going to lose all my progress if I had that burger. But I had to realize that every now and then you can indulge in those types of things. It's just the majority of the time focusing on those healthy habits. I'm sure you've heard the 80-20 rule, but making 80% of your choices more of like the healthier, high fiber, high protein, protein options, and then 20% can be indulging, maybe higher fats, higher sugar, stuff like that. Everything in moderation, and that's how you can do it and still have results. So I started to have more of that mentality and realizing that I could enjoy things in moderation from time to time, and that made me feel less restricted and satisfied with the amount of indulging I was able to do without overdoing it. Just curious, do you deliver? Does your business tend to be seasonal, or is it pretty much consistently year-round? And how many cookie orders per week do you average? That's a good question. I do deliver pretty locally. My business is technically seasonal with the types of orders and when it gets a little bit busier, but there are always events throughout the year, so that helps me to get consistent orders. If it's not like graduation season or Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, holidays, then it's baby showers and bridal showers and birthdays. So I'm always staying busy with a bunch of different events, which really helps out. There are just times that are busier than others. Usually it starts in October when I have Halloween, and then Thanksgiving and Christmas, like I said. And then actually this past graduation season, and pretty much every graduation season, is one of my busiest times. So that helps to keep it pretty consistent year round. And then how many cookie orders per week do you average? So at my heaviest, when I was not saying no to any orders and it was just way too much, it was consuming all of my time. I was getting 1 to 2 hours of sleep at night. It was just way too much. I was taking 10 to 15 orders a week, which was just so unrealistic. I think back to it and I honestly do not know how I got it all done. Now I'm in a much more comfortable spot where I'm doing like 2, 3, 4 orders a week, depending on the week. Actually, this upcoming weekend, I've got a pretty big order and then a few others as well. So that'll keep me busy. But then the week after, I think I only have 1 order. I try to keep it balanced, but over the past few years with YouTube, especially having balance with that and the other things that I do, I've narrowed it down to about 1, 2, or 3 orders a week, and usually at least just 1 every single weekend. I'm pretty much doing cookies every week. Sometimes I will give myself the weekend off, and it's pretty hard for me to turn down orders still to this day. It's something I've always struggled with, but there are many times where I just have to turn them down so that I can get other things done and just have an actual balance to allow me to stick to my health goals and everything, because in the past that was so far on the back burner. All I cared about and prioritized was cookie orders. I've got a much healthier balance now, and that's where I'm at with it. How do you motivate yourself to stay consistent with workouts? And I'm trying to get my adult son to join. Does Adam have any advice that might encourage men to join Weight Watchers for weight loss? So for the first part, how do you motivate yourself to stay consistent with workouts? For me, it is doing workouts I actually enjoy. So even weightlifting, I do a lot of exercises that I enjoy, and I don't do the ones that I don't enjoy. So I don't enjoy burpees. You won't catch me doing burpees at the gym, but I do like doing squats and hip thrust and shoulder press. And so I prioritize the different weightlifting exercises that I actually enjoy, and it makes it that much easier to actually stick to it and get myself there to work out. Also, just enjoying going for walks or setting goals when it's not nice out and I can't walk outside, doing a step bet so that I'm actually motivated to get on the treadmill at the gym and get my steps in for the day. That really helps me, having a little extra motivation there and accountability with community. I think that that's something that really helps people, is finding extra accountability through other people. I also just, again, do things I enjoy. So I love rollerblading, and I'm actually gonna rollerblade after I finish this video, and I can't wait because it's something that I look forward to. It's physical activity and exercise that helps me, but it's also just a fun part of my day that I really enjoy. So that really helps me to stay motivated with my workouts. Okay, and then I asked Adam about the second half, if he has any advice that might encourage men to join. He said one of the best parts of Weight Watchers is how simplified it was to track, which is kind of what I've also been saying throughout this video, but it just encouraged him to actually stick to tracking and keep going. So if it's something you've struggled with actually staying consistent with, even with Adam, he's been able to enjoy so much food and so many meals that he thought that he couldn't. And I'm also in the same boat with him on that. We didn't realize that we could enjoy things without cutting out a bunch of stuff. And I feel like a lot of people have that mentality that once you start, it's a diet, it's restriction, and it doesn't have to be that way. So you can make it fun, you can enjoy the foods you eat, and that's really how it was for Adam and what allowed him to stay so consistent with it. And he had fun just finding different ingredients and lower point options as well that he could incorporate. He loves buffalo sauce, so finding buffalo sauce for him, that was actually a healthier option, just made it easier for him to stick to it. So I feel like just having that mentality that it's not some restrictive diet or something, and that it's just like an extra tool that you can use to stay on track. I think that makes it a little bit more inviting to want to just give it a try. I think that's why we were so open to trying it when we started, because it wasn't some huge commitment, but it was a tool that we could use that actually worked for us for once. What were some of your healthier dessert go-tos? So they've actually stayed the same throughout my journey. I still like a lot of the same healthier desserts. I definitely have some store-bought options that I like, whether it's like different protein bars that I would have that kind of satisfied my craving for candy bars, or Like Air puff corn, the pancake flavor was one of my favorite snacks and still is, that allows me to just kind of like indulge in a sweet treat that I enjoy. But then I also like to make different desserts. So whether it's apple nachos, which I'll drizzle some peanut butter or some powdered peanut butter that I mix with Greek yogurt, I'll add some sprinkles, maybe some chopped up nuts, some chocolate chips, anything like that to make them just a little bit more satisfying and like a dessert. I'll do a dollop of whipped cream, and then it's still within my points, but it's a nice filling dessert that takes some time to eat. I also really love yogurt bowls. I make them super indulgent. Having the frozen berries that I heat up and then mixing it with the yogurt is just so good. It's so sweet. And then I add some cereal or granola or chocolate or peanut butter, and it just makes it such a satisfying, indulging dessert that's actually high in protein and still a healthier option. Next question is, how do you figure out the points for an item simply by looking at the nutrition label? I still scan food to make sure that the points are right, but it's actually like a fun guessing game that Adam and I do at the store. Whenever we're grocery shopping and we're looking at a new product, we'll look at the nutrition label and try to guess what we think the points will be, just because we've been scanning things for so many years that I know that a certain amount of calories, a certain amount of added sugar, protein, fiber, like certain things change the point values, and you just start to learn them as you track consistently for so long. You can kind of guess what they're gonna be, but sometimes we're wrong when we end up actually scanning them. Usually we get a ballpark of within like a couple points though when we're guessing, but the best way to actually know the point value is just use the Weight Watcher app to scan it. You can't just automatically know how many points it'll be unless you memorize their entire algorithm to calculate points, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. It's more of just a little bit of a guessing game, and then we'll double check it by scanning it with the app. But usually when it's higher in fiber, higher in protein, it's gonna be lower point. If it's got a lot of added sugar or saturated fat, that really bumps up the points for items. So we always keep that in mind. And then I kind of ballpark it based on the calories, but it's not an exact like calories to points. The other different things on the nutrition label do play a role in deciding the point value. Next question is, do you avoid alcohol? And I don't avoid it, but I have definitely limited it compared to at my heaviest weight. It's something that I would drink without a second thought, and a lot of extra calories that I didn't need. So that's been one of the main reasons, especially when it comes to tracking consistently and realizing that alcohol does have a good amount of points in it, especially mixed with sugary drinks and mixers like I used to do. It's one of those things that now I just enjoy it in moderation. If I'm going to an event or like a family party or something like that, I will have a drink or two, but it is something that I've lightened up the options that I have. So even if I'm just like having something at home, usually I'll do like a shot of tequila and a liquid IV, or something that is going to hydrate me, not add a bunch of sugar and calories, and then that way I can have alcohol in moderation. But again, very much so in moderation compared to when I wasn't having a second thought about it. Getting near my weight loss goal and will be transitioning to maintain mode in the Weight Watchers app. Any tips? I've lost weight many times before, but the hardest thing to do is maintain the weight loss and keeping the motivation to always track what I eat forever. I'm not one who can eat intuitively. So we kind of mentioned this with a couple of the questions today, but I know what you mean about having to stay motivated to maintain. And if you're someone who tracking really does work well for you, which for me personally, that is the best way for me to stay on track. So again, just making things fun, making it a lifestyle you enjoy by incorporating foods you like and exercise you like. I think that is just the most important thing when it comes to sustainability in the long run. When you're losing the weight, the habits that you're doing while you're losing the weight are the same habits you're going to have to continue when you maintain it. So you need to make them things that are enjoyable and realistic and sustainable for you, not what works for other people, but what actually works for you. So it's a process to find what foods you actually enjoy and don't get burned out of, but actually help you hit your goals, to find what exercises and movements, and also just prioritizing mental health, emotional health, health and not putting those on the back burner either. Those are very important when it comes to having a healthier mindset, mentality, lifestyle, and being able to sustain it. It really is just having well-rounded balance and finding the things that'll work for you that you actually enjoy. And again, it's easier said than done. It is a process that takes work, but it's definitely worth it. Do you ever slip up, and how do you get back on track? Yes, I definitely do slip up. I definitely get off track. Honestly, this past winter, towards the end, I really was starting to struggle. I was really overeating a lot and just snacking, especially at night. I would get in those moods where I just wanted to eat even if I wasn't that hungry. It was out of boredom. It was dealing with stress, and those types of things really lead me to getting off track. But I do know what works for me and the habits that keep me going. And so I kind of have to remind myself of that. I have to kind of go back to the start, whether it's rewarding myself for staying consistent again and setting a new goal of tracking for 30 days. I know that tracking and being honest and accurate with it helps me to lose weight or maintain my weight. So rewarding myself for tracking is something that really helps me to keep going or get back on track when I've slipped up. Also just kind of changing my mentality and not getting down on myself thinking I failed, I messed up. Instead, just thinking it's life, this is how it goes. I know what to do to feel good again. And so I just need to do those things, take a lot of pressure off myself and give myself some grace, being realistic about it. Even just being realistic, like I've had really busy weeks of cookies, so I haven't been able to ingredient prep like I want to, but now I have more time, so I will. And instead of getting mad at myself that I maybe slacked on my goals or got off track, I'm just going to be positive about it and move forward because that's all I can do. So that's been the biggest thing when I do get off track or I slip up, is focusing on my mentality and focusing on the things that I know work for me, kind of just going back to the basics and prepping ingredients, making the meals that I know I enjoy that keep me on track, and all of that. How long have you been married? It's been almost 5 years now. We got married in 2021. And then how is your cookie business doing? Love your channel. My cookie business is doing really well. I just got pretty much through graduation season. I might actually have one more graduation order still, but it's always one of my busiest times and always one of my favorites. I really do enjoy doing the different college logos and the caps and gowns and stuff like that, matching school colors. So that has been a pretty busy season this year. I just got done with a baby shower order, and now I had mentioned I've got some big orders coming up this next week, but it's been going really well. I feel like I've got a good balance with cookie orders and YouTube and the other things that I like to prioritize. Hi Nikki, I've been a subscriber of your channel for the past few years now. I've seen you try new ways to get movement exercise in. Would you ever be interested in training for a 5K half marathon? I recently just ran my first 5K and found it very fulfilling and a great challenge. Thanks as always for the great videos. Thank you. So that's a good question, and it's actually something that I've been thinking about more and more. I love rollerblading. I've always talked about how I do not enjoy running, but I feel like I'm in a much better place and much better shape than I was when I used to make myself run and I just completely dreaded it. I know it is a great exercise. It's something that I want to incorporate more. I've actually started doing sprints. I want to say I started 1 or 2 years ago now, where in the summer, just one day a week, I go to my local track and I do some sprints in the morning. I'll sprint the straightaway, walk back, sprint, and walk back. And I just do it usually like 8 to 10 times depending on the day. So that's been something good, and I've noticed such improvements from actually doing it, and that is really motivating to me, and it's kind of gotten me wanting to maybe explore just running here and there. I've even thought about doing like a different running challenge video where I run a mile every day or something like that, but I don't know how hard that'll be and if that'll feel too much. It's something that I just always have in the back of my mind but I haven't done yet. So it is something that is possible. I actually did run a half marathon. I want to say it was 2016, and it wasn't a good experience for me. I was not in good shape, but I was really forcing myself to run. My eating habits did not match up with it though, and I also wasn't even consistent enough with the running, so when the actual event came, it was just not a great day. I did complete it, but I did not enjoy it, and it's something that maybe I would come back around to and try now that I'm feeling much better and in a better place, but I think I should definitely start with the 5K if I do. It's something I've thought about, but also something that I'm a little nervous to commit to and get started. Even when I go do my sprints once a week, I honestly feel nervous before I do them, but I'm always so happy after I get them done. But also congrats to you for completing a 5K. That is awesome. It's definitely a challenge. So something that I've thought about, and we'll see. Next, we've got, did you feel discouraged when your food choices were higher than the number of allotted points? Definitely. That is something I struggled with at the start of my weight loss the most because I was scared to use my weekly points, and I thought that if I did and I had meals that were higher point like that, I wouldn't have success and I wouldn't lose weight. And then I started to realize that actually incorporating those meals every now and then seemed to help my weight loss even more. I noticed that when I wasn't using my weeklies, the weight loss was a little slower, but then when I was, it was much more consistent and I was more successful with it. So I think that's something that really helped me to realize that I can have higher point meals or foods and still stay on track with my weight loss and maintenance. But it was like a natural reaction. I did feel like nervous and discouraged to eat those types of foods because I was scared that I'd lose all my progress, but doesn't happen that quickly. You don't gain the results overnight and you don't lose them that quickly either. So I had to remind myself of that and remind myself that I'm just having them in moderation. If I was having those higher point foods every day, I would definitely be discouraged because then I'm not actually sticking to the goals that I'm trying to hit. But in moderation, it is still possible and for me, very necessary, honestly. Next question is, does Adam exercise as much as you? So he does go to the gym and lift weights about as much as I do, maybe a couple days less depending on the week with his work schedule. And then he likes to walk, he likes to golf. Sometimes we will play pickleball, which actually we were talking about going and playing pickleball today, but he doesn't rollerblade, so there's a difference with that with us. And I would say that's like the main difference with how much we exercise. When will your next cookbook come out? So I don't have a set date, but I've been working on it. Actually, I've got this here. I think I'm pretty much caught up with getting most of the photos taken for it. So I've got a bunch of pictures here. I'm pretty much set with the pictures, I think. It's more so just formatting and finishing all that up, and it's just one of those things that I'm just trying to pick at each day and just kind of, when I've got a few extra minutes, I set some time aside for that. But I'm to the point where I've been thinking about kind of doing like a weekend getaway and just kind of focusing only on my cookbook so that I can get a lot done, because it's always one of those things that by the end of the day, when I finished editing, working on cooking orders, making food and doing all those things for the day, then I get to my cookbook and it's like a last thought, and I want to be able to really focus on it and just knock it out and get a lot of it done. So I've got the substance of it, it's more just like the formatting. I'm really excited and I'll keep you guys updated when I have a set date for it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I always enjoy doing these Q&As and just kind of chatting about these things. It helps me to hear that you guys experience a lot of what I experience and what I have in the past with my weight loss and my health journey overall. And I hope it helps you guys to hear that you're not alone with these things either. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.